Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Superhero Rewind Commentary Project. It is me, Captain Logan, and joining me, as always, is my fantastic sidekick, Austin, the Day Ghost. We are in the middle of a double feature, and earlier this evening, we tackled Spawn from 1997. We're about to do Mystery Men from, 1999, Austin?
99, yeah.
And real quick, I want to apologize to our patrons because I knew I was forgetting something last episode. I totally forgot to read down the Superhero Rewind producer names at the end of last episode, which we do every show. So I'm going to do a real quick rapid fire one, and then I'm going to do it again at the end of the show, okay? Because I got to say...
Up for you sucking.
Yeah, I gotta make up for it somewhere. And I'll let Austin go back and forth with me at the end of the show, but I'm gonna do this real quick because I feel bad about it. So quick plug for Patreon, patreon.com/geekvolution. The $10 tier makes it possible for you to become a producer, and you can hang out with us on the Discord there. You get your name read at the end of every Superhero Rewind video, be it the unscripted show or the commentary show, and lots of other cool perks there. You can help us pick movies. We're going to announce if I can remember to do it, Austin, we're going to announce the 2 movies for the next double feature next time in a couple of weeks, right at the end of the show, and the patrons helped us pick one of those. So thanks to One Reply, Bill Mills, Chewbacca's Lover, Dr. Hello, Elliot Slater, Goofster 123, Hayden Spring, Joe Turner, Jajira, Matt Bat 68, Michael Martin, SS Jerry, Thomas Edgehill, Adam March, Damon Begay, Hot Soup, Jacob Schneider, Jonathan Campbell, Justin Hayes, Kareem Roberts, Matthew Brody, Michael Austin Gulick, Miguel Rodriguez, The Day Ghost, Unknown Passenger, and Wendell Jones. Okay, got that all knocked out. Thank you guys, really appreciate you, and thanks everybody watching this live. Thanks to everybody last show who participated, and especially folks that contributed super chats. You guys are amazing, really appreciate you keeping the train running along here on Geekvolution. Austin, you had never seen this one.
No, I saw this for the first time like 5 hours ago.
I am really excited to see what you thought of this. This is my first time seeing this movie I watched it in prep for this, but this week is the first time I've seen this since I wrote the old shorter rewind, and that was 2011, 2012, so it's been 10 or 11 years, and I had never seen it before that, and hardly any of it stuck with me. I mean, I remember enjoying it well enough. I thought it was funny. I gave it a good review, but I mean, I remembered almost nothing. I remember Ben Stiller's in this, and something with forks. I didn't remember the bowling ball thing. I didn't remember anything.
Well, I always think it's John Turturro, because that's what it looks like on the poster. But it's Ben Stiller.
A lot of surprises for me this time. And I think, in the last 11, 12 years, some of these actors I've gotten to know better in other things, especially on the comedian side. Like, there's characters, there's like bit roles and cameos and things that I would not have appreciated in 2011 that I got this time. or that somehow I just didn't notice, that they were there before. It's a ragtag and all-star studded cast all at the same time, if that makes any sense. You know what I mean? Like,
well, only shooting stars break the mold. So
there's a lot of names here, but not like, at least at the time, not like, big movie-selling A-list stars, but people you'd know if you were into comedy or like other cult classic things. That kind of thing. So, like, in an interesting way, like, it's a movie about, and I don't want to say any of these actors are outcast by any stretch of the imagination, but it's a movie about a group of outcast characters who are kind of, like, looked down on or not even noticed because of, like, bigger stars in the same field. You gotta have that happening a little bit with this, especially considering it bombed.
It almost makes you wish that the actor that played Captain Amazing was like a big name actor they got for that role.
I had that too. Is that an actor that you know?
No, I don't know who that was. But I also didn't look it up, so maybe I'd recognize the name.
In the director's commentary, Kinka Usher, talks about him and expects that he's about to become a big giant star.
Oh.
Whoever that is, and it didn't happen. That is, I'm looking.
Well, it's because he got disintegrated.
Well, yeah, that's true. But I don't know if you know this. That was a special effect and didn't actually happen.
Well, no, I think that was part of his contract. Was if they had to do it for real. He was like the '90s Tom Cruise, even though Tom Cruise was in the '90s.
Greg Kinnear is his name, and yeah, he's not been in anything else I've really seen.
Yeah, I don't know.
He was John F. Kennedy in the Kennedys. I can see that in the face.
Very good.
And he played Joe Biden in something in 2016. So, like, he's been politicians, presidents, retroactively now. Because at the time, Joe Biden was. Anyway... It's late. We've already done one of these. This is what the show's going to be like, folks. All right, so Mystery Men. I am watching this on disc. I don't think this is streaming anywhere, but it might be. Get out your DVD or Blu-ray, however you want to watch it. It is probably at least available for rental somewhere on streaming. Get it at timestamp 0. Get ready to press play when I say now, and I will have the clock running there if you need to sync up after the fact. Feel free to interact with us in the comments. We'll talk to you guys as much as we're able to as we go along. And you want to just get right into it, Austin? It's 2 hours. We got plenty of time to talk this one out.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, let's go ahead and get into it. Here we go. We're going to go back in our Wayback Machine again. Not quite as far as we just did with Spawn, but to just a couple of years after that. 1999. Here we are already. Please press play right now. So I was laying out all of the comparisons that I could make, all the similarities between these two movies at the beginning of the Spawn commentary. And there's one I missed, which is both of these movies are replete with fart jokes.
That is true.
So I found another one. And
you done did it, Cap.
And I don't want to say the ones in this movie are more clever than the ones in Spawn, but it's at least not, like, super gross out and constant or anything. Somehow the ones with clown, even though there's fewer of them, like, gross me out more.
So already it's super Schumacher Batman-y. And it's going to get even more so in this opening scene with the red goggled guys.
Oh, absolutely. And I think that's on purpose.
City shot was super Schumacher.
It is immediately setting its tone and painting itself as a parody of not just superhero stuff, but visually recent superhero movies. And I guess the question is, so would you agree with that, or do you think it's just what's in the air and this is how we're making superhero movies right now? Because I want to think this is intentional parody stuff.
I mean, it's a little bit of both, because Batman's like the big thing, and it's very much looking at those two Batman movies. So, like, I think we're specifically looking at those two, but when those are two of the biggest things we have in that moment, you could say it's just looking at them in general.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe it's not really worth reading too far into it, because obviously it goes without saying this is a straight up comedy. It's a farce. It's not so farcical that there's no story or no characterization, and that it's not about anything, but it's a looser comedy than something like The Mask, which is a lot more focused on its story and
No, I think
is exploring an idea a lot more than this. I look at this as almost like a Saturday Night Live type of film.
Oh yeah, no, that's a good call. I also thought this was very much a okay for families version of Super.
Okay, interesting. I wouldn't have thought to compare it to that.
Part of it's the plot's kind of similar through a lot of it, where like we got to get like become a superhero to like save this person.
Oh yeah, that's true.
So you have like
I put that movie out of my mind because I don't like it, but
yeah, and I like Super, but I can understand not liking it.
Yeah, I don't understand the appeal of that at all. But we don't have to get into that again here.
Yeah, we'll get there eventually, though.
Oh no, that's true. So the my big takeaway is looking at this again, and I didn't go back to my rewind. I have no idea what I said in that. I didn't really want to be influenced by what a decade-old me said. So I may have made this point back then. I don't remember. But one of the big things that I kept thinking while watching this is the closest to a theatrical adaptation of The Tick we'll probably ever have.
I figured you were gonna say that, yeah.
And I know I go to that place a lot, but I mean, there's a lot of Tick in this. There's a lot of Ben Edlund type humor, and particularly in that it's a superhero thing that both has inept superheroes and decent ones. And it's a world that, and it plays with a lot of mundane humor. It's laughing at real life boring stuff that we all have to deal with all the time, and people trying to be like ordinary people attempting to be extraordinary in a world that is overall pretty ordinary, but then there's also all kinds of weird stuff that happens if you're really paying attention. And just like with The Tick, there are characters that actually do have superpowers, but a ton of costumed heroes that don't at all and are just pretending like they do because they want to not feel like outsiders and fit into that and be famous and important and maybe actually do care about saving the world.
Yeah.
But there's so many gags in this that come right that could have come right out of a Ben Edlund comic.
And that was the biggest surprise to me, is I didn't expect to come into this and it be so stylized. I figured it would just be like we're in the real world.
Yeah, this is the antithesis, kind of, as a superhero parody movie of something like Kick-Ass.
Yeah.
Where it is a comedy
Or
like that. And it's, and it's making fun of some superhero tropes like that does, but it is much more of a, like, directly out of a comic book kind of thing, like The Tick is.
Mm-hmm. Well, I feel like if you were to put Kick-Ass and Super over here and The Mask over here, like this is somewhere in the middle where it's got some of the aspects of both. Where like it's sillier and more cartoony than those later ones are, but it also has, I think, some of the like more heart that those two have.
Then Super and what else?
Kick-Ass.
Kick-Ass, yeah, absolutely. No, and that's where I find myself comparing it back to The Mask again. I think it has heart in a similar way that movie does, but again, I think that movie is more focused than this.
Oh, okay. And it's been so long since I've watched The Mask.
And I can't help but bring that up some with this, Austin, because I think it's influenced by that movie to some degree, given that there's not been a lot of independent superhero movies yet, and especially things that weren't based on old pulp stuff. This is also technically based on Dark Horse material, although just like The Mask, although very, very loosely. As I mentioned in the previous video, it's based on Flaming Carrot, but there is no Flaming Carrot in this. I guess he pals around with some people that those comics call the Mystery Men, and that's where the title comes from. By the way, I don't think it's ultimately a great title for this material.
Oh, no?
Mostly just in marketing. I think that actually hurt it. It doesn't really sound like a superhero thing.
Yeah, I can understand that.
And it sounds potentially more generic than it is.
Mm-hmm.
And like it works in the context of the movie, and I kind of like the gag okay at the end where they get that name, but they're not paying attention, so they don't use it. That whole thing's okay, and I like the kind of irony of none of them are particularly mysterious except for maybe the Sphinx, and one of them even comes right out on the news and says what his name is, but they are the mystery men. Like that's kind of fun. But I don't think it helped the movie at the box office.
Yeah, no, that is possible. I love the cynicism of Captain Amazing having like all of his brand deals, like he's a NASA driver on his suit. That's really fun.
No, that's great. And again, it's a thing that feels very Ben Edlund. I actually can't help but think that the Patrick Warburton Tick series ripped this movie off in some places.
Oh, interesting.
There is a character in my wife's favorite episode of that show called The Champion. I quote this a lot, where he is a wealthy lawyer who is by night a Superman-esque superhero, and he takes off his glasses and nobody recognizes him, to the point where when he does it in front of the Tick keeps thinking that Steve has disappeared and the Champion has shown up. And they go right up against doing that in this movie, where a couple of our characters are like, well, he can't be the Captain Amazing, because if he was, if he took his glasses off, he wouldn't be able to see. And like it's hilarious. Yeah. I don't really get why Ben Stiller is the only character that isn't susceptible to the comic book rules of if you take your glasses off, nobody notices that you're Superman.
Well, I just like that he's like conspiracy theorist about it. Like he's almost like Peacemaker in that way, where it's like he's definitely this guy, but it's played off as like a conspiracy.
Oh, okay. I didn't even think about that, but I think you're right about it. I'm glad you said that, because I think I was reading it wrong. I kept trying to figure out, because you know me, I overthink these things. I kept trying to figure out why he was more self-aware and like the rest of the audience than everybody else in this world, but that's really the only example where he's like that. He's more roped into the comic tropes beyond that. Mm-hmm. So what you're saying makes a lot more. You're saying he's figured something out and probably doesn't even know if he's right about it.
Yeah, no, it would be like saying the president's a lizard person is the like what I got out of that joke.
You know the alligators in the sewers?
Yeah.
It's a myth.
that Scooby-Doo Meets show does that joke too, Cap. The glasses thing where they meet Lois Lane and she can't tell that Velma's Velma without her glasses.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I didn't know that. I haven't watched much of that, but I just watched the Weird Al episode the other day with my kids.
Yeah, I just saw a clip where it's like she's not wearing glasses and she's like, wow, where's Velma? And then she puts them on and she's like, oh, there you are. And then Velma takes them off and she's like, oh, Velma left.
I'm going to try not to do this too much, but Deathman is dead. That's a Ben Edlund joke. There's a lot of that. But the other thing I was going to say real quick about the whole thing with the Champion is, again, it feels like the Tick maybe ripped that off because he's also a lawyer. I mean, it's exactly the same thing.
Yeah.
And of course he's in it for the wrong reasons, and it's all about fame and glory. I like the setup for this story a lot. The idea that the Superman of this world, and it's not an evil Superman, like he's not a bad guy in that sense, but he is, but he cares much more about keeping his reputation up and keeping his brand deals and all of that. He's not really fighting crime for the right reasons. And
it's Superman through a cynical lens versus an evil lens.
And his ultimate and we kind of do the same thing with Superior in the Amazon Tick series. And his ultimate downfall will be that he looks down on everybody else that tries to do what he does and doesn't really look at them as human beings and thinks that he's better than everybody else. Mm-hmm. And so I love the idea of that guy setting up the plot in the first place, where like you'd have no story if he didn't let the villain out of the insane asylum, and he turns himself into the damsel in distress, and then our incompetent superheroes get him killed, but he's more at fault about it than they are. I love everything about that.
Mm-hmm.
Having said that, and I do like a lot of these characters, and their motivations are clear, and I like that we spend some time with their home lives, and that like most everybody has some kind of an insecurity that leads them to trying to be a superhero, and they're kind of pathetic in their obsession with trying to be important in that way. What I don't care for with the film is just that it meanders a bit. I think it's half an hour too long, and it has a lot of characters, and I get that it needs some time to develop them, and I appreciate that it does that, but it probably could have used like 2 or 3 fewer on the team, I think. And it does seem a little bit more interested in the improv comedy, which is better than a lot of things, especially more recent improv comedy things with superhero movies, than it is really being a like tightly woven narrative. And I think it could have done both. I think it could have still been a really funny, wacky comedy, but
been a bit tighter.
But been a little tighter, yeah. That's my main complaint about it.
Yeah, I thought it mostly worked on a first viewing. Obviously, like I'll have to see like the more I see it, like if it starts to drag a little bit more, or if I start to see more places that I would cut. And there were places where I thought it meandered a little bit too long, but I don't know if I would say I'd cut a full half hour out.
It overstays its welcome for me a bit. I start to lose interest by the third act with the climax.
Yeah.
Which feels a bit obligatory, and it also feels rushed and exactly like what I found out it actually is, because I thought some of that third act felt like remnants of an earlier script that they had changed too much to do some of the things they were doing there, and it turned out
that's exactly what it is.
Based on the director's commentary, that's exactly what it was, yeah.
Interesting.
You get to the third act, and the villain, I know I'm getting ahead of us here, but the villain has off-screen kidnapped the girlfriend.
Mm-hmm.
Like, when did that happen?
Well, I just thought it played as a joke where like he walks out and he's like, "Oh, I have your girlfriend, by the way." So
there's enough connective tissue through the rest of the movie, though. It hasn't done that kind of humor.
That's fair.
So I think that's kind of difficult or problematic. The other thing that makes me think a lot about the mask is just how you mentioned how stylized the city is. Mm-hmm. Those shots, and we don't do anything like enough of that in the mask. I really appreciate how many like back off matte paintings, like digital matte paintings, we get with this, and that we actually explore the city a little bit, and it's a nice kind of timeless like Batman 89 thing, but taken a lot further, where it's a mix of a bunch of different decades. Mm-hmm. I love that about it. And we've got Champion City, just like we had Edge City with the mask, where we've like made up a place and it looks kind of futuristic and out there. I love the Zeppelins. I always get excited about Zeppelins in superhero stuff. I love that we have that.
Said the climax wasn't on a Zeppelin.
Well, yeah, that's just a personal thing, you know. I think every Batman movie should end on a Zeppelin.
That would be good. No, I agree with what you're saying. Like I really like the look and design of this movie. The production value is really good.
It's really good, and I think especially I can't help but compare it to the movie we just watched. Like the CG holds up a lot better. There's definitely dodgy things that would probably mostly feel less dodgy at the time, and there's some really ambitious stuff that I'm surprised they even tried. Mm-hmm.
But I think what helps is there's not a lot of it, like there is in Spawn. Like it's not driving everything.
No, it's not. It's there when it needs to be. Most stuff is practical, And then there's places where I'm really blown away by it. The bowling ball flying around at the end looks spectacular.
Mm-hmm.
For 99?
Yeah, for sure. No, a lot of that looks really good. I also found out, and this is kind of awesome, that actress kept that prop.
Yes.
And displays it every Halloween.
She uses it for Halloween, yeah.
That's awesome.
Let me read the super chat, and then I want to kind of talk about some of the actors that I'm surprised are here, because that's a lot of what's fun about this for people. It's just the who's who with it, so we should probably get into some of that. But Chewbacca's Lover put in a $5 super chat and says, my dad burned a TV airing of this onto a DVD, edited out the commercials. He did the same thing for Batman Forever and The Mask.
Very cool.
We did that with VHS tapes all the time.
Yeah, I never had that experience, like the VHS tape or DVD thing. I don't know, I missed that.
Real quick, the thing that resonates with me most with this movie, because, comedy is subjective, and I find the humor in this somewhat hit and miss. Like, a lot of it I'm laughing at, and is pretty good. It's got like a 70-30 ratio to me, I think, which is part of why I think I want some of it cut out. Mm. But the thing that resonates with me most is just Ben Stiller's character arc. I think I'm a little bit, the disco guys are great.
All of those like costumes, character jokes are all good.
It's all good. I love the gag that every time they show up, there's a different disco song playing. Mm-hmm. I love that Eddie Izzard is there.
I love that when they go to shoot them, it's like, ready, aim, fire.
I didn't even catch that. That's really funny.
Wonderful.
But no, I'm a little conflicted about what happens with him and his girlfriend in the third act, because a part of me, and I don't mean to be a structure stickler, there's a part of me that feels like it's a little late in the game when he has his massive insecurity and decides that, and has a what's the word I'm looking for? A identity crisis. I almost want to see that happen a little bit earlier in the movie, but I think I'm won over by it, because I love how we kind of flip the script with that, where usually what we do is his girlfriend would give him the big stirring speech about how he should just be himself, the big be yourself message, and then that would spurn him on into the climax where he's able to sort of like the end of The Mask, really, where he has to be the hero without the mask, where Ben Stiller's character would go, I don't have to be angry all the time. I can fight crime a different way. And he, instead of that, it kind of ruins him for a minute, and he tries to run away and leave the group. So, I don't know. I think I'm won over because I like how turned on its head that whole thing is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely.
It feels kind of weirdly realistic. But there's a part of me that wants it earlier in the movie somehow.
By the way, I don't have any proof of this, but that T-Rex toy that he runs over looks exactly like the T-Rex from We're Back, a Dinosaur Story, but purple instead of orange.
Yeah, it's weird because the director says they did that because everybody hates Barney, and he thought it'd be funny if we ran over Barney, but it doesn't look like Barney.
No, but I'm like, is that a We're Back toy?
It does look like a We're Back toy, and it's about the right period for it.
Yeah.
But
they painted it purple.
All of the familiar relationships in this, the familial, relationships in this, I find believable and charming, and sometimes really heartfelt. I love his relationship with his wife.
Yeah.
The shoveler. And I love how we have a really good balance of being consistently absurd, but also like weirdly true to life. So you get this, for instance, you get this great moment with her here where she's like, she doesn't want him to be a superhero. It kind of reminds me, again, with the tick of like the human bullet and his wife, where she thinks the whole thing is stupid. She's been kind of putting up with it. Now she's just worried he's gonna get hurt, but she's still part of the goofy internal logic of of the world, where she doesn't feel like she stands apart and is like a real world character that has forgotten the universe she lives in. She's like, we both know you're the best person at shoveling there's ever been, but you just shouldn't be. I think that's so funny.
Hmm? So that's one of my favorite lines.
What's that?
The Mom, you're cheesing me off. That's like right out of Napoleon Dynamite.
And this is one of the best payoffs in the movie. Again, I feel like it comes a little bit late, a little too late, or like the movie's too long, because I've kind of forgotten about it by the time we get there. Where like his mom is really curious about what he's doing. We're talking about Blue Raja.
And then you kind of build it up a little bit too late. You're thinking,
yeah, or we should check back in with her.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like maybe it needed another
We lose threads, and I don't trust it, and then we pay them all off at the end, and that's nice, but I've already lost interest in them or forgot about them. That's kind of the problem with it.
Mm-hmm.
So it works better on a second viewing, because I kind of forgot about that scene.
Yeah.
With his mom, and it's very quick. We don't spend much time with it, and so the idea is supposed to be, you just have all these little threads that it would that feel like kind of a condensed TV season or something, where he thinks that she won't approve of him, and that's why he's trying to hide everything. And he doesn't understand that she just wants to know what he's doing. She's just curious. It isn't that she doesn't trust him or won't even like it. And one of the most heartfelt and kind of charming moments in the movie is when
she gives them the extra forks.
Yeah, is when she accepts him and asks him to do the accent and all of that. I love that. It's wonderful.
It's both really charming, and the line where she's like, "I was gonna give this to you for your wedding, but now I see that's a long time away," is really funny.
Yeah, it's really funny.
Also, Jeffrey Rush as the bad guy is wonderful.
Aiden Spear, I think the movie actually does both. Only by accepting who he is will he be ready be who he accepts. Oh, he's trying to do the blue or the Sphinx thing. I see what you're doing. I see what you're doing there. But yeah, that's true. But what I meant was, you expect him immediately to just rush off, and now he'll have the confidence, and he has to hit rock bottom after that. He's at his least confident right after she says, you need to, be yourself. And that identity crisis is ultimately positive for him, where he realizes that he doesn't have to pretend to be someone else in order to be accepted by his girlfriend and to be a superhero. And I guess the main theme of the whole thing is acceptance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. What is it with Jeffrey Rush and apples? We just had like that big shot where he's like, he's got his apple. That's like the big Barbosa thing. People just really love giving that actor apples, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know those movies as well as you, so I wouldn't have put that together.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just funny.
I think it's weird that he's doing this like really vague European accent that's more German than anything, but it's not exactly German. But he doesn't call himself Frankenstein. Like he puts he puts an SH in it, but
yeah,
I would have thought Frankenstein, but no.
No. Well, no, because then the stupid people won't.
What kind of crazy man blows up a crazy house? That's great. One of the things that was fun about listening to the director commentary was finding out just how many lines I assumed were scripted were actually ad-libs. Again, I think there's too much dialogue, ultimately. They're kind of going for this feels like a kitchen sink movie to me, where like we're going for a percentage with comedy. We don't expect to land everything, so we just throw a lot of stuff in, and just generally scenes, the way they're conceptualized, feel that way too. We're just throwing in everything we can think of.
But it's very much the like what Ben Stiller was doing around this time.
Yeah,
you
sure.
get stuff like like Zoolander or something, or like even before that was some of like the more raunchier stuff like Something About Mary. That's very just point a camera at the actors and go.
So this back and forth with the I knew that you'd know that I knew business is funny. It's one of the things that really reminds me of Austin Powers.
Oh, true, yeah.
There are some exchanges here that feel like they could be right out of that, and I also think some of the cinematography, some like where he chooses to put the camera, is a lot like out of that.
Mm-hmm. Well, and we'll get the part in the climax that's just the fembot sequence, but not as cool.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, I didn't think of that.
The kind of bed set.
How do you feel about? I'm going to ask you this earlier. How do you feel about all the choices of first-person POV shots?
So that one earlier of Hank Azaria where he's talking to his mom looks like I'm playing a FMV game.
That's absolutely right. Yeah, this movie should have gotten like it's too late for this, but it should have got like a Sega CD game or something.
Mm-hmm. But outside of that, I'm not thinking about it too much. Like I like how this movie looks. But that one specifically, I'm like taking out a little bit. I'm like, it's just an FMV now.
Well, the reason I'm asking is because I've rarely seen a movie that does it as much as this does, and it's clearly for comedic effect.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if it makes scenes funnier or if it just feels like a stylistic choice. Like, I don't have a problem with it. I'm just surprised by just how often he does it.
How much they're doing it, yeah.
And this director was mostly a commercial guy. So we talk a lot with superhero movies about directors that have done more music videos than anything. This guy got famous doing the Got Milk commercials.
Oh, weird. I should have had a Got Milk superhero.
Somehow got this movie because of his popularity in commercials. And so a lot of actors like this older lady here running the junkyard, she was from commercials that he had shot. Like, he put a lot of commercial people in this.
This type of woman's like a commercial's dream. This type of actor. I meant to say earlier in that last scene, while, like I said, I think a lot of this movie's looking at Schumacher, the villain's the one thing that's looking at Superman. He's very Hackman Lex Luthor.
Oh, I didn't have that thought.
Well, I think
in what way?
I think in design, I think in the hair and stuff they gave him is very Hackman Lex Luthor. That scene is the scene where Superman first comes in and he's got the crate with the kryptonite in it.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, I wouldn't have made that connection. He feels like almost a throwback to more sci-fi serial villains than even superhero comic villains.
Yeah, well, that's true too, and especially in the climax, there's a lot of Big Trouble in Little China,
which I still have never seen.
Yeah.
I'm probably not appreciating the influences with him. I mean, he even reminds me a little bit of we talked about this a few weeks ago, of Khan from The Shadow.
Oh yeah. No, I can see. I didn't have that thought, but there's a little bit of him in there too. So on the radio, we got Apu delivering the news, because
we've got Hank Azaria in this movie.
Half of Hank Azaria's Simpsons voices come out in this movie in some way or another.
Oh, that's really funny. Yeah, I didn't notice that.
I
knew that's who that was, but
there's a part where he gets thrown and he's got a Mo sounding voice, and I think there's something else later on.
So I wanted to talk a little bit about, like I said, character actors and comedians and stuff. It's pretty nuts, especially for a guy that, I don't know if he directed any movies before this, but a guy that was known more for commercials, was able to pull all of these people together. It feels like a passion project that all these people really wanted to make. Everybody that's worked on this talked about how much fun they had and would have loved to have made a sequel. And more recently, people have been coming out and saying, people that were in this saying, yeah, I'd do it if somebody put that together, but it didn't make any money, so I don't expect that. And even Ben Stiller has said that. But
No, I mean, this is one of those movies where, if it was like hacked apart and there was a director's cut, it wasn't successful enough to ever see the light of day. So I can't imagine we would get a sequel, let alone that.
Yeah. Well, stranger things have happened. I could see it as a direct to streaming thing, potentially, but probably more likely if somebody actually involved in this original production spearheaded it and tried to get it made. Kind of like, and I mean, this actually did go to theaters, I think, but I kind of like, I can't think of the name of it. I'll think of it. Yeah.
Like Stiller's got to direct it.
Yeah, exactly.
Get it off the ground.
Yeah, well, and they came to him to direct it, and he didn't want to do it. And then the actress who plays the bowler, she and him are friends, and they've done lots and lots of stuff together. And she convinced him to do it, to be in it. But they wanted him to direct initially.
Interesting.
And, yeah, so it was actually really surprising that he did it. Oh, Bill and Ted is what I was going to say. It could be kind of that situation.
Oh,
where, like, those guys just worked really hard to get that movie, bought by somebody and made.
Yeah. Yeah, and the second Anchorman's like that, I think.
Sure.
But the legacy sequels for comedies have, like, the worst track record over any legacy sequels. So it's probably for the best.
Yeah. The fact that it's so, like, outside of time could potentially help it if you conceptualized it right, because maybe it wouldn't be so influenced by the passage of time and, modern sensibilities and stuff.
Well, that's the thing I wonder, not even just with this, but, like, there's always talk about a fourth Austin Powers movie.
Yeah.
And it's, do you update it to be a parody of what's come since, or are you still just parodying what we did back then?
Well, yeah, that's a really good point. Like, maybe you would want to, in some ways, be influenced by what's come since, because the bulk of history of superhero movies is post this.
And will people get what this is going for as much if it was made now? Or, like, if they did a sequel, you know what I mean? Like, because it's such a specific, like, we put a pin in, like, 3 or 4 years of comic book movie history, and that's, like, the main thing we're parodying. So it's like, like, I don't know.
Real quick, I was also going to say Danny DeVito nearly directed this movie. And
yes, but you told me off camera.
He was.
That would have been.
I think I talked about it in the previous video, but he was very nearly, or he was like almost signed to do it, and he wanted. I don't understand this whole thing. He wanted control over the soundtrack and couldn't get it, so he left.
Interesting.
And, like, I'm not even thinking about the score that much with this movie. I don't know why that was a...
Well, maybe he wanted, like, to play a lot more licensed music over it.
Maybe so. Who knows?
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't find much on that story, but that seemed like a weird deal breaker. I've never heard of anybody doing that. Like, I can't get the music I want, so I won't make the movie. I've never heard that.
Well, and the question is that if he directed it, would he have been in it?
But yeah, to your point earlier, I mean, we've had so many different kind of superhero movies since this, and we've had a lot of superhero parody since this.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's always that worry about just repeating yourself from the first movie. But with something like this, I'd be almost worried that you'd come back and hit too many beats that other superhero parodies have done. Like, how do you do Mystery Men after Deadpool?
Yeah, or even after, like, Kick-Ass and Super.
Yeah.
Which are kind of, in a way, spiritual successors.
But I say Deadpool because that's the popular one now and the one everybody would be comparing it to.
No, of course. But my main thing is, like, I wouldn't want this to come back and look like an MCU movie.
No, I wouldn't either. It would... You almost wish it could have come out during the DCEU. Because that's what you'd almost want to make fun of with this.
Well, okay, so if you made a sequel now, you know what the opening of this movie would be?
What's that?
Is Ben Stiller narrating and then Ben Stiller walking out of the shadows to fight a group of thugs, right? Like you would do the Batman
Like the
joke?
Batman? Yeah, maybe so. So how do you feel about the overall structure of this? Where like we're doing kind of the Magnificent Seven thing, like adding heroes as we go. I think we just spend too long on it. I kind of wish all this was truncated into the first like 40 or 45 minutes instead of the first hour.
I like that, especially like from a comedy perspective. And I think going back, I like it more because now all we do is the like montage thing, which we do later. But now, like all of this would be truncated into that montage.
Or
So
the
I like
entire
that.
movie would be team building, and
Yeah,
then we
or
wouldn't
that.
and we wouldn't have much of a third act at all.
Mm. No, that's true too.
But you're right, for a comedy, that's more like what we do. But like all we do with DCEU is team building movies, and it takes a whole movie.
Well, I'm just thinking of like I'm glad it's not the like stupid X-Force thing in Deadpool 2, where it's like, okay, now here's this like 3-minute montage, and now we have the entire team, and then you go from there. I don't like it works better because we can do more jokes with the characters getting them individually.
I didn't remember that Kel was in this at all. Like I didn't remember that he was the one playing the Invisible Boy.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah,
I
it's
think
funny because I think this is the first movie I've ever seen him in, but I was like, hey, isn't that the Keenan and Kel guy?
Yeah. Well, I saw Good Burger when I was a kid. I never watched their show. That's the only
Well,
thing I
now
ever.
that's getting a legacy
That
sequel.
it is. Yeah, they've shot it. It's coming out next year,
Oh, is it next? I thought it was like out in November.
or maybe it is the end of this year. But I know it's shot.
Yeah, yeah. I think there's a trailer already out for it.
There is. I will probably pass on that. This did not go where I thought it was going to. There's kind of this big question, sort of a mystery in the first third or so about whether superpowers even exist in this world, because we have these again kind of incompetent heroes who get shown up by the superhero that has kind of a culture of dependence built around him. And none of them really have powers. They just sort of pretend like they do. And so I'm thinking, okay, this is sort of like superheroes in the real world, but the world itself looks stylized. And then you blindside me completely with a almost like Raven parody character with the bowler, where she's got her father's head in a bowling ball and is talking to it. And even for a second with that, I'm thinking maybe she's crazy and just thinks it's her father's skull, but she's not actually talking to it. But pretty quickly, it becomes clear that that's supernatural.
Mm-hmm. No, she's like the katana of this group because they have that whole thing in Suicide Squad.
I mean, I guess you could make the argument that the first clear superpower is spleens,
Mm-hmm.
and then you start getting into that debate of what counts as a superpower. But it feels heightened and impossible before it feels like quote unquote supernatural.
One,
What he can do, and I don't like the fart jokes and the flagellants and all of that, but it could be a lot worse. So like I live with it, and I think he's Paul Rubens. He does a good job. I don't really like his character very much.
so
Not my kind of comedy, I guess. But he does a good job. He's funny enough. He's got moments.
I don't necessarily like love the like flatulence joke stuff. Like I'm just kind of like whatever on it. I think the spleen is the funniest character in this movie by far. I think he gets like half of the funniest lines in this movie.
Oh, okay. Again, it's very subjective, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
like I don't have that. The funniest stuff for me is the real clever kind of like stalwart speech stuff.
Yeah.
That again is real Ben Edlund in nature. So my favorite lines tend to be from characters like the Shoveler.
Oh yeah, no, the shovel is great too. I mean, I think I like all of the main characters in this movie. Like, I don't necessarily have a weak point. Um, I think they're all funny in their own way.
And when you get to the end, they've united the seven.
Exactly. Well, because you were talking about like how her power is like, or it's not exactly a power, but you know what I mean? Is like the one thing that's more like super powered. And I do think that is
Until
like
you find out that the kid really can turn invisible.
Oh, that is true too. But I think that is part of just the comedy of this period, which is that all the guys are kind of losers, and she's like a little bit stronger than they are.
That's true, and more competent. And the irony is, she doesn't even want to be a superhero.
Yeah,
she's just doing it as a stepping stone to get what she really wants. And I guess it works that we don't find out until the end that she's got this deal with her dad.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's Dane Cook.
Yes, who I need to go away like the second he shows up on camera.
Who's the waffler? Yeah, and it's popular to hate on Dane Cook. I don't have an opinion because I never paid attention to his comedy. But the reason I wanted to talk about this is because I didn't remember he was in this. And weirdly, I watched a video just a couple days ago about the career of Dane Cook.
Yeah.
And there's a shot of this scene in that video, but I hadn't gone back to this movie yet. So I didn't even catch that it was from this. And then I'm watching this and I'm like, oh, Dane Cook just showed up. And then here's what's really weird about that. So he didn't have a career yet. He was just getting started and somehow wound up in this movie with this little bit part, right? Mm-hmm. And you were kind of making fun of this earlier, but Smash Mouth has music in this movie. And Dane Cook, according to that video, I think I remember this right, is in a big Smash Mouth video. It's like one of the first things he does.
Oh, weird.
And I don't know if that has anything to do with why he's in this, but the director in his commentary does not know who Dane Cook is. Because it's a commentary that was recorded shortly after this came out, and he goes, yeah, this guy was funny. I don't know who he is. Mm-hmm. And it was really kind of interesting just to go back to this moment in time.
One of the superheroes that just already flashes, I like to call him Breaking Bad because he walks up in like the yellow jumpsuit and he's got the goatee. And I'm like, there's Breaking Bad.
Dan Schneider is keeping up his shtick. I'll just read this real quick. $5 super chat. He says, having worked with Kel Mitchell, I can say he's a consummate gentleman and one of our great actors. He killed it in everything I cast him in.
Very good. I actually don't even know offhand if Kel's in any Dan Schneider shows, but I guess he is.
Probably is. That guy's probably regularly looking at his his biography.
They're like a decade off each other, but I don't
filmography
exactly.
So little nitpick here, and it's not even a mistake or anything, but there was a gag I thought, kind of a subtle gag I thought we were doing that it turned out we weren't, where each of them in a line is throwing something into the water. And I kind of, the second time I watched this, I kind of fixated on it because they take some time in between it. Like they're talking, they're unhappy because this is all right in your face. It's great. They're unhappy because they couldn't cast anybody for their team, and then like one by one they go down the line and they're slowly throwing something into the water, and the last person doesn't do it, and I'm like, oh, it's not a bit. They did not do this on purpose.
Yeah, I guess not.
That was kind of weird. That's a great line. She's gonna have to take her ball and go home. So yeah, the most confident and laid back, doesn't care what anybody thinks of her, and most competent of them does not want to be a superhero.
I mean, she's very attractive.
And then I guess you have two superheroes that kind of know what they're doing. One hasn't really been a superhero, and that's her, but she's really good at it. And then the other one is the Sphinx, who like slowly starts to look a little bit more pathetic and less competent as the whole thing goes along. Mm-hmm. Where he rallies them together and seems like the wise sage character, and they believe in him because he he has wise sayings and kind of a plan, but then the moment things go awry, he's ready to jump ship and run off. And so at the end of the day, they really are all like kind of pathetic and unrealistic, except for her.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like she's the most heightened of them. When it's funny because obviously I have like Captain Amazing, so like superheroes do exist in this world. But then
that's right, Austin.
Yeah.
They sure do. And yeah, each of them has a bit of a different angle with it. I like that they're not all carbon copies of each other. That would have been really easy to accidentally do.
Oh yeah, like that's your like Thunder Force. they all just do the same thing, and it's boring.
Yeah. But like they've all got. I just think the home situations are really important, and we don't really get one for everybody. But like the main characters that we start with, we get that with.
Yeah. No, I mean it's that structured thing, right? Where you have these are the main characters, and then you're kind of B and then C tiered characters on the team.
Yeah, well, it's basically Ghostbusters times 2 or 3. So you have multiple Winstons.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's probably the right way to put it.
Well, I think they're called Winsty at that point.
Oh, okay, sure. I don't know the proper plural. Don't correct me.
Because you also mentioned Dane Cook. We should also mention that Doug Jones was in that montage as well.
Yeah, and apparently at the time wasn't really acting yet and was regularly a contortionist, which I didn't know.
Yeah. No, and I like his bit where it's like, I'm Pencilhead, and I'm son of Pencilhead.
Something else I didn't realize was that Tom Waits was ever an actor.
Yeah, because you said that to me, and I didn't recognize the name offhand. Who's Tom Waits again?
Tom Waits is a real popular singer who is kind of beloved in like Bob Dylan type circles.
Oh, okay. So maybe that's why I wasn't too sure who that was. Because I was like, is he in a
You wouldn't call it exactly folk music, but it's not like pop or rock either.
Yeah.
I'm surprised you haven't heard of him, though.
I mean, I probably have, but it wasn't ringing a bell.
But yeah, I didn't realize.
I didn't recognize him.
I didn't know he was funny. I didn't know he was an actor. Like he's pretty good in this. He kind of plays their Q.
Yeah, like I recognized Eddie Izzard, but I didn't recognize Tom Waits.
And apparently, a lot of Waits' dialogue is ad-libbed.
Oh, okay.
Apparently, almost nothing he says is scripted, except for like the names of the gadgets and stuff.
That kind of stuff.
Being unfair and comparing this to Spawn, here's a car chase that actually matters more. And in a goofy comedy where you can get away more with a set piece just for the sake of jokes. And there are some great jokes in this scene, but there's enough connective tissue where it actually makes sense that we're here and dealing with this gang.
What's also a car chase where neither car is moving, and it's far more thrilling than Spawn. And part of it is Ben Stiller on a car going,
No, it's really funny. Yeah, apparently Ben Stiller actually accidentally broke the glass.
what, sorry?
Apparently in the filming of the scene, he broke the glass. And
really?
with like the shovel supposed to break it, so like they spent 2 hours having to replace the windshield. So the thing that was supposed to be difficult to do, he actually had no problem doing.
That's pretty funny.
I don't know why, but she's so committed to this. Just the look on her. Every time she picks up the ball, it's funny.
Mm-hmm. I also like the little thing where she has to like catch it in the bag. That's fun.
Yeah, no, that is great. Who do you think is the most compelling character dramatically in this narrative? Like, as a character?
Probably her.
Because I think it's actually a 3-way tie.
Well, sorry, yeah, I would say it's between her and the shoveler, I think.
Yeah, but then by the end, I think Ben Stiller is absolutely in there, and like if there is a central protagonist and everything else is built around it,
He's
clearly
definitely
his.
it. Mm-hmm.
But like I think his chemistry with the girl he's interested in works, and I had to be won over on it because I wasn't sure about it at the start.
Mm-hmm.
That crane shot of him like freaking out on the car is awesome because it's the kind of shot that you do in a superhero movie when somebody was about to like Hulk out or
Yeah.
go into berserker rage or something, and he's just a guy committing too hard to his quote unquote superpower. And I like this idea that he is a guy who has a temper and probably has kind of an anger management issue, but he tries too hard to keep it up all the time as a superhero.
Mm-hmm.
So the thing he has to learn is not to control himself or that he's not actually an angry person. It's to embrace the anger when it's genuine.
Yeah,
like that's what he has to learn at the end. I love that.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree.
And we'll get a scene at the end that's also kind of right out of the Tick where everybody is trying to get him to get angry and he's just not feeling it. He just can't get there. There's a scene in the Tick versus the Big Nothing in the cartoon show where they meet space aliens whose ship runs on the power of fear, and Arthur is often terrified of things, so they hook him up to run their ship, and it goes really far because he's terrified. And then you get to a place where they really need to use the fear thing, and he's just not scared anymore.
Oh yeah, that's one of the episodes we watched in the watch party. The Jeff and I did.
Yeah, I couldn't remember if you saw that one, but it's exactly that scene. I'm not saying they ripped it off. I'm just saying that they're going to a lot of the same comedic places.
Mm-hmm. No, and I thought of the episode of Futurama where Fry drinks the Emperor and they have to get him to cry. Which I guess would have come out after this, but
yeah. But yeah, this like the Patrick Warburton Tick series, feels like it almost wants to be a serialized sitcom.
Yeah, I can definitely see that.
And I'm not saying it doesn't work as a movie, but I think it might have been more successful as a TV show.
We maybe could have had an animated series if it did well.
That's true. But like if this was conceptualized as a sitcom and put on TV in 99 instead of put in the movie theater, I think it might have had more legs. I think it's possible it would have been more successful.
Or it could have been like another The Tick and just lasted a season.
Well, yeah,
I could see going either way.
There's no way to know, but with this cast, I think it could have maybe been, or a cast like this, it could have maybe been more popular than that show was. And just don't put it on Fox, and maybe it'll get aired in the right order and on time. And
oh, it's that scene where they do the ready, aim, fire.
This movie also, as a comedy, has a really good balance of like your over the top comedic characters and your sort of straight men characters. Mm-hmm. Like the shoveler is kind of a straight man, but he's also really funny in his own way. Like that actor is not doing anything, specifically to try to be funny. He's playing it very straight, but it's a inherently silly idea. Mm-hmm. And so it always plays for comedy all the way through, that he's so committed to the shovel bit.
Yeah. No, it does the straight man characters, like something like Arrested Development, where they're also just really funny in their own right. They're just not, insane.
Well, that's also partly why I wonder how this would have done on television. Mm-hmm. Because I feel like the recipe for potential success was there for a regular comedic thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely.
And you almost could have had the same cast because you're right in the middle of TV actors and movie actors. Like, a lot of these people cross and go back and forth. You wouldn't have had Ben Stiller.
The two biggest ones I imagine is you probably wouldn't have Ben Stiller and you wouldn't have had William H. Macy. And then I'm not sure about her. I don't know what else she's in.
Yeah. Well, she's done a lot of TV and movies, but I don't know if she's done any regular television.
Yeah.
Janine Garofalo. Although she was in... Well, what am I talking about? She's in at least a season, if not two, of 24.
Oh, okay.
Like, as a main character.
Yeah. Okay, interesting.
And I went back not too long ago and watched The Cable Guy, and she has a bit part in that. And Ben Stiller also has a bit part in that. So, like, they just follow each other around for projects. Have you ever seen The Cable Guy?
I've not, no.
Oh, okay. She is the waitress at medieval times.
That's the one scene that I know about from that movie.
That's her, and
that's like the one scene everyone talks
she's
about.
Hilarious in it, and I think it's really funny that the one thing she has to do in that movie is, it has to do with a fork.
Mm-hmm.
In this movie,
that is true.
This movie has a man that throws forks at people, which is, I think, maybe my favorite visual gag. Again, just because it's so tick-like. Like, it's like American Made throwing shoes.
The main thing I like with that is I just like that he throws a spoon and then they berate him afterwards that he threw a spoon.
And that he won't throw knives.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that makes these characters endearing, and this is where I like this better than something like Super, is there's nothing remotely like cynical or mean-spirited about this movie. It's not really for kids. I mean, it does feel like it's aimed more at an adult audience, but what's endearing about it is that none of its heroes are interested in killing or hurting anyone, really. And that's kind of unusual. And I don't mean that every project has to be like that, but it's unusual.
Yeah.
Like, they don't want to shoot guns. They make fun of the henchmen that have guns. Which makes it a little bit odd when they go to their version of Q later and they're like, well, you don't have anything, you don't have anything that kills people, so we're not interested in your weapons. But at that point, they just think they need something.
Well, part of why they berate them for using guns is because they're like, that doesn't even fit your gimmick.
Oh, that's true.
Disco.
Yeah, because they're all about just the theme. Like, that matters. It's kind of like rock stars that can't play their instruments. They just care a lot more about the look than anything.
Yeah, they would have been fine with it if they had like disco maces or something that they swung around.
Oh, Ben Stiller directed The Cable Guy. I forgot about that.
Oh, weird.
That's why he's got that little bit part there and why he cast her.
Well, there you go.
There you go. I had it on in the background while I was doing something else, so I didn't notice the director name. I guess I never realized that that's who directed that.
Yeah, and he probably doesn't talk about it anymore because it was so like divided.
I was gonna say that's not a hated movie. There's a real division, and The Cable Guy I go back and forth on. Every time I watch it, I have a different feelings about it. This last time, I thought it was really great, and I wasn't sure what issue I ever had with it. And the time I watched it before, I was like, I don't know about this movie. Anyway, I'd love to watch that with you.
It would certainly be interesting.
Are you just real like anti-Jim Carrey?
I've grown that way in like the last like 3 years. I think.
Okay.
I never used to be, but I find like if you go back to our Sonic video, I'm like totally in agreement with you that him as the Riddler is way better than him as Eggman, and I don't know that I could say that now. I don't know. I've had like a weird shift.
Well, and for me with that's just kind of more about like what they gave him to do with Eggman. Like, I still think that's good casting, but but anyway, back to this.
Yeah. I'm glad he's not here.
Yeah, I love Yeah, but the movie would have made more money probably.
That is true, but it would
I
have
don't
been
know.
much more sticky.
I don't know who. Yeah, and I don't know who you'd replace him with. Like, you wouldn't want him in Ben Stiller's role. That would have been all wrong.
Yeah. No, I don't know if there's like any character that he would. Maybe one of the villains.
Yeah, that could have worked. He could have had a cameo role, or like been one of the leaders.
He could have been. You know what?
Of one of the gangs. That would have been okay.
He could have been the waffler.
But you wouldn't have. I mean, I would give him more than a cameo like that. I would give him something that he was in like 2 or 3 scenes, because there's a lot of actors that do that. He could have had something like Tom Waits' role, I guess. But I wouldn't have wanted him to be like one of the main 7.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, but yeah, I love Ben Stiller's speech about how the Sphinx just keeps saying formulaic things and nobody's noticing it, because they're all buying into what he's selling. And Ben Stiller is, I feel like sometimes because that's another example where he's a little bit more aware of a silly superhero thing that's going on, where the wise sage character has come in and everybody just buys into it because he sounds like he knows what he's talking about, and he's doing the Mr. Miyagi thing. And maybe the reason that Roy doesn't buy into it is because, or the reason that he becomes so self-aware about some of these, or like, I don't know, cosmically aware about some of these things, is just because he's so insecure, he's not sure that he makes for a very good superhero, even though he really, really wants that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes sense.
And so they have this like blind, ignorant confidence. And so in some ways that ends up being kind of a good thing for him, even though, you know, it breaks him off from the team.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, one, it's interesting, right? Because that's like the
I guess I was just gonna say, it could be a strength, maybe. It doesn't end up playing that way, but...
Mm-hmm. No, and I agree. No, that's like the cliche thing to do, is like they break up, but it doesn't really feel like that in this movie. Like, it doesn't feel like that same, like, oh, well, now the comedic characters have to split up, and then they're gonna get back together in like a few scenes.
No, it actually watches to me like it comes from a genuine character place. And
no,
like, maybe it wasn't even structurally set up that way, but, and I don't know if this happened, but it kind of watches like they got into that scene and it just felt like that's what he would do in that moment. It really does watch that way to me.
Mm-hmm.
Which I like a lot about. And you kind of need it structurally for his character arc, because he needs a reason to break off from them and go look for solace from the girl that he wants to be with. And they need time to get a relationship going, because he wasn't able to get that started at the beginning of the movie like he tried.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's got to go off to do his character stuff.
And you could have started that right at the beginning, I guess, but it actually works better for his arc that she's not interested in him initially, because he has to let his guard down and start showing some weakness before she has any interest in him at all. Because what she doesn't like is the macho pretending to be someone you're not thing. Mm-hmm. It isn't that she doesn't want him to be a superhero. It's that she doesn't want him to pretend to be someone else.
Yeah, she doesn't like that he's like a poser. It also works structurally, because I feel like if you were to front load it, it would have been too much setup. And it also works to kind of split some of this like gag superhero stuff up.
That's absolutely true.
So it kind of splits up your second act a little bit better.
Yeah, because that scene would have gone on too long if we didn't break it up with something.
Mm-hmm.
That's a really good call. And I like what this movie has to say about superhero identity stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I agree with that.
It kind of playing with the trope of trying to cope with, you know, the mundanity of life again, and you know, feeling inadequate by putting on a costume and pretending to be someone else.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't vilify that. like the movie itself like really sympathizes with the reasons that people feel the need to do that, and some of them have to really go against that, like Ben Stiller's character, and you know, like figure out who they are versus this completely like different, unrealistic, ridiculous superhero version of themselves they're doing. And then others are allowed to embrace it because it really is who they were all along. You know, like Blue Raja is more that way. You don't have everyone learning the same lesson, but they don't feel contradictory either.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it's interesting, right? Because it's like some of them, they're just being who they are, and then somebody like oh my god, I've like blanked on what Ben Stiller's superhero name is, but Ben Stiller's got to like learn that he has to have that Spider-Man thing where like he just is himself when he's in costume.
Yeah, Mr. Furious.
Mr. Furious, yeah. He's Peter Parker in Homecoming, where he's got the threatening Batman voice.
Yeah, good call. Yeah, it isn't that he needs to. The whole "Be Roy" message is that there is some Mr. Furious in Roy, but they're not separate entities.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
And I think
he's got to find the balance.
And I think Blue Raja is like the opposite of that, where that's the guy he's pretending to be is much more who he really is deep down.
Mm-hmm. And then you have the spleen, who is just himself at all times.
At all times, yeah. And he doesn't have a real person name.
No, he's the spleen.
I don't think we're getting at anything really with that character.
No, I don't think we are.
I'm not sure what to read there as like a.
Well, the spleen wants to get with her.
Like, what is the spleen a metaphor for?
Sexual inadequacy / erectile dysfunction, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's just
he's the night owl, really.
I guess it's just like the bad hand that some of us draw, and you got to make the best of it.
Yeah, you just got to own it.
Well, what's interesting about it is, like, that's a guy who's likely, unfortunately, never gonna, get a girlfriend, because, like, who's gonna want to be around that guy all the time? And that kind of thing is sad. But isn't it interesting that I guess the thing is you've got everybody's got strengths and weaknesses, and you got to play to your strengths, right? So he's dealt a bad hand in some ways, but he's the only of them at first that even looks like he has a real superpower. Like, he's actually weirdly useful in a lot of fights, and they lean on him a lot.
Mm-hmm. No, like, the most useful characters really are the spleen and the bowler. And then everyone else has, like, situational usefulness. But those two are the ones that are the most well-rounded.
Yeah.
Which is why I ship them.
Oh, no. And one of them is kind of the most functional member on the team that nobody wants to get too close to because he's gross. And the other one is kind of the... I don't want to say the natural leader of the group, because she is kind of a loner, but she's the most capable and competent of them. And again, she's the one that least wants to keep doing this. Although I get the sense that at the end of the movie, they probably all stay together as a team.
Yeah, I think so.
She probably just goes to school at night and then goes and does superhero things with them during the day. Or vice versa.
Or vice versa.
Probably vice versa. I don't know what I'm saying. It's getting late.
Yeah, the shoveler's got to spend time with his kids, and Ben Stiller has to break down cars.
Tom, earlier when we were in the abandoned carnival, said he never noticed there was a nude mannequin there. That was $2 super chat. Yep, there was a mannequin there.
Yeah, correct. I
did notice that mannequin.
I did notice it because it was like there was like a shot of Janine Garofalo like this, and then the boobs were like
right in your
so
face.
like,
They wanted you to notice that. They thought it was hilarious.
yeah, and I was like, get these boobs out of my face. I only have that vision for the spleen. Put him back on. That is a sexy man.
This is another really good example of a scene that has a really good balance of comedy and drama.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that could be really hard. But I
and
agree.
they nail it almost every time. Like, that's the thing that's most impressive about this movie to me. Like I said, it's hit or miss to some degree with comedy for me, but not really with drama. The drama almost always works.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what saves it for me in places where I'm not really laughing, because I'm kind of buying the story much of the time. I just wish it was more about that sometimes.
Yeah. No, that's fair. Well, I think, that's where you really play into William H. Macy's strength, because he is a really good dramatic actor, but he can also be really funny.
And he's funny without trying.
Mm-hmm.
Because what's funny about him is a lot more what's on the page.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, definitely.
I mean, I could really easily cast some of these characters like with Tick counterparts, because I feel like
there's Michael Bay.
Michael Bay is in this movie. He is the lead. Oh, I can't believe we're already to the scene. God, he is the leader of the frat boy,
which group. Is maybe the funniest joke in the movie, but we don't focus on it.
This is another thing that feels right out of the Tick. This is like Chairface's birthday party.
Mm-hmm.
But I was just gonna say, I see the shoveler as almost like an American Made type, where his motif is ridiculous and he doesn't even appreciate how ridiculous it is, and he just plays it completely straight. But he's super capable.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I'll see how ridiculous you think it is if I come over there and hit you with a shovel.
Yeah, sure. That's true. No, you could be very effective with that as a weapon, but just, the whole getup and just the idea that, like, I'm great at shoveling is really funny.
Yeah, no, exactly.
I do kind of question for instance, like at the beginning of the movie when they all go to the elderly folks' home and they kind of fail entirely and they need the real superhero to come in and save the day. Why does he do so terribly? Is it just because they don't work well as a team? Like, if he went by himself, would he do a better job?
Maybe, but he's also pretty lame, so...
They kind of play him by the end like he's not really. Or maybe it's just that he's better at, I don't know, stirring the team to come together than he is.
Well, I think his main thing is the determination of it, right? Where it's like...
Yeah.
He's not great at this, but he's also never going to give up. And it's through that determination that he becomes good at it.
Okay, because I keep thinking of him as more competent than the others. Maybe it's just that he has a skill that is not useful in superheroing.
Mm-hmm.
He can shovel.
Well, especially because, he's talking to his wife, and his wife's like, I've been doing this for 12 years, like, completely unsuccessfully. But
no, that's true.
He refuses to give up.
Yeah, it's like hang on to a business that's losing money. Like, why are you still there?
Mm-hmm.
And I find his wife, like, shockingly reasonable, even as she's threatening to leave him. Like, I'm not finding her obnoxious.
Mm-hmm. Well, we could have gone way farther with that. That would have made it obnoxious.
Absolutely. Well, she's playing... I think what helps is that they put two actors together that are both really good dramatic actors that have this tinge of comedy underneath it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and
definitely.
So you can kind of feel her hesitation. Like, she feels bad about needing to leave, but thinks that it might be the thing she has to do. And then, of course, when it works out at the end, it's really satisfying.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know about the skunk joke.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I kind of like that it gets, like, artistic with the opera music and the shot.
Yeah, that's funny, but this is a scene we could have lost, I think. Is
Yeah.
it just supposed to be ironically funny because skunks, he smells bad and he doesn't want a skunk to spray him?
Yeah. Probably, yeah. That's
Seems
probably
kind
all.
of obvious. I don't know. That is a James Gunn shot if I've ever seen one. Bob the Gun, $5 super chat. Like with the moon, that feels like a shot he would do.
Yeah.
Is there an alternate reality where it gets Ghostbusters big? A fantasy comedy with mostly improvised dialogue if things were just slightly different. Well, Ghostbusters did not have mostly improvised dialogue. I'm sure some of it was. This movie definitely has more improvised dialogue than Ghostbusters does.
Mm-hmm.
I would have loved this to be a little bit more like that, where it's a bit tighter. And again, a lot of the improvised lines are really good. I just wish the balance for that was a bit better. So when I said I wish that it was more concerned with story, it's not that it doesn't have enough story. It's just too padded out and elongated for my taste.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if there's a world where this is Ghostbusters big. Maybe.
I think it's one of those kind of wrong place, wrong time kind of things. I don't think it came
I
out
agree with that.
when it needed to be big.
Yeah.
But we've never really had the super successful superhero parody, like live action superhero parody movie that wasn't something like Deadpool based on a character that was already really popular. Like Deadpool's not popular because it's a superhero parody. It's because it's a character people already liked.
Mm-hmm.
And then that built momentum with word of mouth and stuff.
It'd probably be the biggest one besides Deadpool is just Kick-Ass.
That's true.
Which the second one then bombed, but was also like the most pirated movie of that year.
And it was bad.
And it was bad.
So like that didn't help. Yeah, this surprisingly never goes to the gross out places that did.
Mm-hmm.
I'm surprised by how relatively classy it handles the potty humor. I mean, it's still there. It's still potty humor. I still don't like it, but like, it doesn't turn me off to the rest of the movie.
Mm-hmm. Well, like I said, for me with the spleen, it's like that stuff's not especially funny, but he also has lines outside of that I think are really funny, so it balances out.
So I think this is brilliant, and maybe in an unintentional way, Austin.
Yeah.
But we took our stand-in for Superman,
Mm-hmm.
and we went to the least likely place with it where nobody could have ever called this. Our stand-in for Superman turns into the "I'm glad you're dead" guy from '89.
Oh. Yeah,
And
yeah.
that's amazing.
Yeah.
It's one of my favorite things in this movie.
This was like one of the only things I knew going in, so I was like waiting for it the whole movie because I thought it would be like the opening.
Oh, crazy.
Yeah, like when they first go to this house and they get beat up by the disco gang, I thought that's where the scene was going to happen.
Well, again, I like how consistent we are in our heroes always screw up, they always screw up, and then when you get to the end of the movie, they finally succeed only when the ostensible leader figures himself out and gets over his insecurities, and his superpower is not actually a superpower, it's just confidence. But I like that our kind of pathetic Superman who's all about fame and fortune is the cause of his own demise.
Yeah, no, definitely. No, all that really works. And he's like the one cynical superhero character, so we blew him up.
Yeah, so we got rid of him. And the reason we're rooting for our kind of, idiotic superhero characters is because their hearts are in the right place and they're more or less doing this for the right reasons when he wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
So you want them to get good at this and replace him because the world's a better place if these people are saving it. If only they can figure out how to do the job right. So I like that a lot. Apparently, when what is her name again? Janine Garofalo.
Janine Garofalo.
Apparently the director didn't tell her that the "I'm glad you're dead" guy's arm was going to come off.
Yeah.
So when she reacted to it, it was genuine.
Oh, that's fun.
And that was a great call on his part. That jump was real. That's great. He sounds like he oddly really knew what he was doing.
Yeah, no kidding.
with this material. Again, it's the opposite of Spawn, where you had a guy that didn't have a lot of experience making a relatively big movie. I mean, it wasn't Spawn big, but there's a lot of set pieces and special effects. And
I mean, I think this movie has a well-placed confidence in itself to do it. And I'm sure the fact that he's making a movie about losers probably helped, where it's like, I'm like this kind of underdog person making this movie.
that is another Ben Edlund-esque line. There's no way Ben Edlund doesn't like this movie. When Casanova, and by the way, the villain's name is great. When he says, "A fish fork is no match for my machine."
Mm-hmm.
It's so good.
Yeah, no, that's a great line.
And the way this movie was put together is really interesting because, like I said, everybody working on this had a good time and loved making it, and it was more collaborative even than these kinds of things usually are, where like every single main character and even a lot of minor ones really like came in with their own ideas of who their characters were, and they were fluid enough with the script to let those actors do what they wanted with their characters and kind of change the trajectory of the movie a little bit, which is probably partly why it feels a little too meandery to me. But at the same time, I really respect that because these characters wouldn't come alive as much and wouldn't feel as real if that hadn't been allowed to be done. Because I don't think... The sense I get from the director is the script they had wasn't as good as it could have been. And the actors actually stepped up and made it better.
Yeah, no, I think why I don't have the meandery thing that you do as much is just that. I mean, I grew up with a lot of comedies that were made like this, and like you said, I think it helps build the characters out more. And it's not what we do now, where like it's just endless shtick. Like they're all in character. Like it's not just think of something funny to say, even if it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
And I think that helps with that.
And that's another thing that's different with this and Spawn, because Clown has that in places.
Mm-hmm.
Where it's like, why did you even say that? I don't know what that means.
Yeah, there's no like Chris Hemsworth Thor being like, oh, it's about time we have a group of all-female warriors, even though they all died before he was born.
Yeah, or the thing in Ghostbusters when to come get your virginity out of the lost and found.
She didn't think her improv through and just blurted it out.
You have to lose your virginity if it's in the lost and found.
You can't get it back.
You can't get it back.
Yeah, no, exactly.
What do you think is? I mean, since we're talking about a comedy and comedy subjective, it's even though I think there is a good story here, it's a bit stretched out, and so it is going to live and die by whether you think it's funny, because I don't think the story is likely to carry people through that aren't laughing. Mm-hmm. I wish it did. But what do you think is the funniest overall sequence in the movie?
Oh, the funniest overall sequence? That's harder. I don't know offhand. Do you have one? Will I think of one?
I think it's probably the death of Captain Amazing.
Yeah, that's definitely up there.
That's probably my favorite scene, even if it's not technically the funniest.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I like when they're like berating Hank Azaria for killing him.
Yeah, no, that's great.
He's still dead. Same difference.
And one of the best scenes, like I was talking about earlier, I've kind of talked this out already, but is definitely Blue Raja with his mom.
Oh,
because
yeah.
It's just the last place I expected it to go.
Yeah, no, exactly. You would think that they would go for like the obvious gag of like, she's disappointed with him or like isn't happy with what he's doing or whatever. then they bring it to a more heartwarming place.
It's shockingly tender, yeah.
Yeah.
And then I kind of half expected it to get sort of creepy somehow, and that doesn't happen either. Like, it remains endearing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and this mom's in it for like 2 scenes, and she's really good.
And she just tears it up, yeah.
Yeah.
And by the way,
this is a moment. I'm gonna take it.
The scene could have cut there, and you'd get the point across, but it's so much better that it continues.
Mm-hmm.
Like when she says, "Do you need more forks?" That could have just been a gag. Like just you didn't expect that. It's a joke. We move on, but we actually get to like live with him and see him get what he always wanted from his mother.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think of the joke that he's Blue Raja, but he's got like no blue in his costume?
I specifically love when he's like, "Look, if you knew about the history, it would make a lot of sense."
That's what I was gonna say. I don't know what that means. So if only you knew the history, it makes perfect sense.
Oh, also when he does his British voice, he sounds a lot like Professor Frank. That voice is coming out quite a bit when he's doing the British thing.
Oh, we talked over the egg salad speech, but I love that speech.
Mm-hmm.
Or have they not?
It's really good.
No,
that already
right?
happened.
And again,
we have it because of the cholesterol.
It's stirring and dramatic in this context anyway, and you buy it motivating these characters, but it's also really funny.
Yeah.
Because like the egg salad analogy by itself is kind of funny. The size of that sandwich is preposterous. and then the way he breaks down each person and struggles with a couple of them with how to make them sound like less lame and more useful than they really are is pretty great.
Well, and that's the Guardians, like, we're all a bunch of losers.
Yeah.
Too, right?
Yeah.
Gunn probably loves this movie too.
He probably does. Because I'm seeing things that if they're not influences, they're just on the same wavelength.
Mm-hmm.
I love that look that she gives when she's really ready to write him off, and then she's like, "Oh, he's actually going to go do something dangerous."
Yeah.
But maybe it's going to matter, and I'm going to feel differently about this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
that's all great.
Exactly.
There's just a lot of these scenes that could have easily played for like mean-spirited comedy, and this director is really thinking about the audience and whether we care about these people.
Mm-hmm.
Like he really gets character, and I look for that in a good comedy.
Yeah, exactly. It always makes it a better comedy.
Teddy999 super chat says this movie walked so Shrek's opening can run. That's what makes it an all-star. Okay, thanks for that.
It was weird for me hearing that song outside of Shrek, even though I knew like all along this is where that song came from.
Yeah, I honestly didn't. Somebody mentioned that earlier.
Mm-hmm.
That I didn't know that the song was first featured in this. I heard it on the radio constantly, but then I thought that came out a couple of years before this. Maybe not.
The music video is like mixed with clips of Smash Mouth and
I know, and I didn't know that.
Yeah, that was how I found out. I was like, oh, it's that movie Cap reviewed that one time. That's weird.
Crazy.
His love interest in this scene is wearing that outfit Mary Jane wears in the first Spider-Man.
Oh, you're right. It is kind of like that. I thought she was just okay until this scene.
Yeah.
And I think she's really good in this scene.
Well, and part of it, I think, is this is where she like really gets to eat up some material.
Yeah, because she's kind of typical before this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is like that turning point where you realize she's not so typical.
And you realize how instrumental she's going to be in his character arc and his finding himself. But again, what you don't expect is that what comes after that is his hitting rock bottom, and that what she's actually done is risk this whole mission.
Mm-hmm.
But if she hadn't said just be Roy, they would still lose.
Yeah, no, exactly.
Probably. They changed the ending. The thing with the bowling ball at the very end was added 4 months later in reshoots.
Weird. Do you know what the original ending was supposed to be?
I'm trying to remember. It wasn't. it didn't sound as good.
Oh, okay.
Like, I think it would. I'm trying to remember, because he doesn't. The bad guy doesn't fall uh, in the big evil machine. In that, there was something about him like being on top of the disco ball or something.
Oh, weird.
But I don't know how it full on ended.
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
Now you could make the argument that Furious maybe doesn't have enough he has to do in the climax, and it's kind of more about the bowler. But it's a bit of a 1-2 punch, is it not?
Yeah, no, I think it works that he gets to knock out the bad guy. I also, by the time we hit the climax, I was thinking more of, and again, you haven't seen it, but Big Trouble in Little China, where Kurt Russell's character is like useless throughout the entire movie, but he gets to take out the bad guy, and I was thinking about that quite a bit.
Okay.
By the end.
Everybody check it out. They got their effing costumes.
Yeah. And look, Ben Stiller tried to do a Captain Boomerang.
This is hilarious to me because I was watching Who Wants to Be a Superhero when it was on, and that was a real guilty pleasure for me. And I've reviewed that on Rewind, but that reality show with Stan Lee, and they only did 2 seasons of that. But like midway through the season, you'd have the superheroes like turning in their crappy homemade costumes for new ones made for the show, and they look a lot like these.
Oh, that's funny. I was also thinking of like Batman and Robin, where like they get out their like very specific costumes for the end.
Well, one of the big surprises for me with this movie is all these things that I think the movie is just doing because it thinks it's funny in random scenes that are actually setting up things for the ending.
Mm-hmm.
And suddenly you realize that there's a lot more of a story happening than you thought there was. Where it's like, oh, they were actually building their costumes in that in that camping scene.
Yeah.
And we're going to see their costumes. And I guess somebody finished Ben Stiller's for him?
Well, they got bored. They all finished it together.
They all finished it for him?
But it's funny because, like you said, that flies under the radar. But, like, the setup for this truck is, like, the most obvious setup and payoff. Like, the second they're, like, this armored truck in the back, I was like, oh, this is what they're going to drive at the end, right?
Yeah. But again, it's so spread out, you forget about it. So when it comes back, you're like, oh, that's cool. And you're like, wait a minute. This movie is duping me into thinking things are cooler than they are.
And they're driving the Mr. Freeze vehicle from Batman and Robin. It's got the same front, just without the spikes.
And that's one of the lines that big fans of this movie always come back and quote. We're on a blind date with Destiny and she ordered the lobster. That is just a Tick line, right?
Yeah, that absolutely is.
And so but I'm buying it. It's weird that, like, the guy that I keep comparing to American Made has all the Tick lines. But, like, it works?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that is interesting, like, just how ticky it is. Especially when you were saying...
Because he's more of the straight man guy. He shouldn't be the Tick, but then once he finds his confidence, he becomes the, like... I don't know, stalwart, like, rah-rah superhero guy. He's not really the leader.
Well, and so many of those lines are, like, just very dry and, like, just, like, I don't know, like, I can see where it can both fly as a straight man line and as a Tick line.
Yeah, that's true. It's all about the delivery, isn't it?
Yeah.
Teddy999 super chat again. Thanks, man. To bring back a comedy classic, this movie would have been way better if Hitler was in it.
Yeah, that could have been one of the supervillains.
That's a reference to a movie or to a video we did the other day.
You could have
about Lupin the Third.
The disco boys, the frat guys, the Hitler gents, and I don't know, the Elvises.
Missed opportunity there. They'd be called the Hitler Youth, would they not?
There you go. Yep, the Hitler Youth.
You're welcome.
And they'd all be kids with like the little mustache.
Yeah, exactly.
There you go.
You're welcome.
I'm gonna steal that now. I'm gonna put that in something.
Well, yeah, you can have it. I don't know why the skeleton in the ball is always funny. Because it's absurdly large, and or at least it looks like that the way we're shooting it, and we keep coming up with excuses for somebody to just like hold it out of a shot. It's really funny to me.
Also, the spleen just has a Ghostbusters get up right now.
I didn't think of that. The climax.
Don't press the streams.
The climax is absolutely the most 90s looking thing in the whole movie. With the visual effects especially.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, I agree with that, but I think it works in a way that the Spawn stuff doesn't.
I missed something you said earlier. The tank thing. What were you comparing it to? Because I keep thinking about the Mr. Freeze vehicle in Batman and Robin.
That's what I said.
Is that what you said? That's what I'm saying. I missed something you said. I don't know if you said that.
I said it's that without the spikes.
Yep, that's exactly right. Okay, so explain to me what is happening when he turns invisible.
What do you mean?
I mean, he goes invisible and his clothes fall off.
That I don't know.
I don't get it.
The like invisible person having to be naked is very common, but the fact that
the invisible person usually will take off their clothes. He doesn't know he's naked.
Maybe he does like he's gotten so good at it that he can just go like that and his clothes fall off.
But that makes it so contrived just to have a look, this guy's naked joke.
Mm-hmm.
And
no, it is weird. I
didn't know this when I watched the movie, so it doesn't really make it worse for the sake of the movie. But Cal really didn't want to do it.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
They kind of forced him to.
That's awkward.
And it's for a joke that doesn't even really play to me because I don't know why his clothes come off. So like, yeah, I don't know. That leaves a bad taste in my mouth.
Yeah, that's weird. So this is the Austin Powers Fembot scene. Except
that's true. It is. Boy,
it's way funnier in that movie.
It's even shot like it. Look where the camera placement is.
That's what I'm saying. Like it's the same set, and you got like the same girls, and like.
Boy, that was a shot.
It certainly was.
The gun right in the camera, right in her face. That's pretty great.
No, that needed more I Touch Myself by the Divinals.
This is kind of an awkward joke to me in this movie. The shrinking ray. It's paid off well, but it also feels like an Austin Powers joke. Like, we haven't done a lot of guys ogling hot chicks kind of jokes or like womanizing type jokes. Mm-hmm. It almost doesn't feel like it fits with the rest of the comedy of the movie to me.
Interesting. What I thought was weird was that at first I was like, oh, it hit their clothes are shrinking. But then I think they were shrinking, but I don't know, it was weird.
No, the clothes are shrinking. That's what's happening. The clothes are shrinking.
Oh, but it also, like, I felt like it's supposed to be like they were shrinking. I don't know. I was a little confused. Maybe I'm dumb.
But Tom Waits describes what it does in an earlier scene.
Mm-hmm.
And he says that it makes clothes shrink.
Oh, okay. It's specifically okay. I got you. I thought it just makes whatever it hits shrink. So I clearly missed that line.
Well, I might be remembering it wrong, but that's what I thought he was talking about.
Yeah, I thought it was just whatever it hits shrinks, but then they hit them in their clothes, so their clothes shrunk. But then I was like, maybe not. Like maybe they are shrinking.
But yeah, I like that all the weapons that we set up earlier come back in kind of fun ways in this.
Yeah.
Ending. Again, I don't think I like the climax overall as well as some of the rest of the movie.
Well, it's hard, I think, for comedies like this, when your climax is like very actiony, because it's hard to keep the jokes coming.
And it has to be because of the thing you're parodying, right? Like
Exactly.
Austin Powers has this too, where it's a 007 movie, so even though it's a comedy, it's got to end with a big shootout or a fight or something.
Mm-hmm.
I think that handles it better because it's
No,
shorter.
I agree too. Same with something like Spaceballs.
Yeah. But that's a little bit different because it's following a very specific movie formula. And this is a little bit more broad than that.
Yeah, it's
Like
yeah,
it's a little looser with. We keep talking about structure, but it's looser with its structure. It's not like it's superhero movie where it's like we're gonna be beat for beat Spider-Man. And Spaceballs isn't exactly beat for beat Star Wars, but it's more formulaic than this is.
yeah, no, it is following it a little bit more.
I have meant to do a commentary on Spaceballs for like 10 years, and I just keep forgetting to do it.
Spaceballs is awesome.
It is.
And all I hear is slander about it now, so I would be down to do that.
We got to set the record straight.
Exactly. It's like every friend that I know that's seen it is like, that's not even funny.
I wish I didn't already have a Galaxy Quest commentary, because that would be a fun double feature.
And I've never seen Galaxy Quest. One day.
It's one of my favorite comedies, man.
One day I will watch that.
So this watch is a little bit like, I'm not gonna kill you, but I don't have to save you, right?
That's 100% what it is.
But like intentionally so. I don't have a problem with it. I just think it's kind of funny. Where she's like, I'm not gonna kill you because I'm better than you, but I have no problem with letting my dad do it.
I mean, I think it works better here because it's more badass. But
oh well, yeah, absolutely. And she's never seemed like the most, morally upright person in the first place. Like you kind of buy her doing that.
Well, and it also feels like
to the villain.
Yeah. Well, and the whole like "I forgive you" thing feels like it exists to set up the one-liner. So it's like maybe she's just setting herself up.
So yeah, he just went and found Ben Stiller's girlfriend. Did I miss something? Did he even know about her?
Not that I know of.
I don't think that's what I'm saying. Is this movie hasn't done that kind of non sequitur comedy, and I'm fine with that.
You think it's too far?
We're all the way through. Nothing's been making sense. This is not that kind of movie. This is not a Naked Gun film, and that's a Naked Gun move.
Mm-hmm. No, and that's fair.
So yeah, that doesn't work. That was a holdover from a previous script that they just kept in.
I like that his main weapon now is just his cocaine nail. That's very Big Trouble in Little China.
Well, and I love this set, like the dinosaur bones. It's so weird.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even understand what it is, but I like it.
I also like that Jeffrey Rush like hisses whenever he attacks.
I also didn't catch until a second viewing that this clock is supposed to be like a doomsday clock.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it's been counting down the destroy everything weapon.
Yeah, that's our ticking time.
The doomsday device. Yeah. It's I like literalizing a ticking time bomb.
Mm-hmm. No, that's fun.
That's another opposite from Spawn, which we talked about earlier, where I wanted an actual literal ticking clock, and we couldn't have that. But we got one in Mystery Men. Well, Mystery Men has a Spawn clock, ladies and gentlemen.
Well, no, because I think part of it is that they have like the doomsday clock for when the plan's gonna go through, while Spawn, the runtime is the doomsday clock.
That's awesome. I forget what exactly it is, but the name of this weapon is great.
Oh yeah, the like machine that melts you.
Yeah.
I can't remember what it's called either.
Well, and we kind of wait a long time to know exactly what it does.
Mhm.
And it's this weird reality bending thing, and you don't even know that this universe can get that supernatural. And so I kind of love saving it for the end. We do get the light in the sky.
Yeah, I know. I had that thought too. We're starting some trends.
This is before everything in its dog did that.
Though it's a green light when it should be blue.
It's yellow.
It's like greenish yellow.
It's orange now.
It's purple.
It's
well, and then
not
we
purple.
see the city, and the city's like warping like Doctor Strange. So.
Oh, a psychofraculator is what it's called.
Yes, psychofraculator.
That's great.
No, that's wonderful.
Austin, I gotta say, I think overall, I'm finding this a better experience watching it with you.
Oh, that's good.
And just talking it out.
Yeah.
Like I think it's a bit of a better movie than I was giving it credit for in my head.
Mm-hmm. I was really hoping that Ben Stiller would use Michael Bay's corpse as a cushion.
Oh my god!
When he jumped off that thing, that'd have been really funny.
I don't know if this is the style of comedy that really needs the goofy sound effects.
Yeah.
You know, like the Bionic Woman sound effect and that kind of thing.
I didn't really have a thought about it, but
well, here's where I'm weird about it. It's like it's a bit of a farce. It's a parody of superhero things. Comedy sometimes will do goofy sound effects in general, and it's making fun of superhero movies, some of which even the ostensibly serious ones will also sometimes have weird sound effects. So I can't decide if it's that thing where I'm like, is it making fun of other movies that do that, or is it just comedies do that, or just superhero movies sometimes do that? You know what I mean?
Well, I feel like we're probably at the last step of that. Like, if this was made now, it possibly wouldn't do that.
If this was made 2 years after this, it wouldn't be as likely to do it.
Mm-hmm.
It's a real, like, straight-up 90s thing. So, yeah, that shot where she throws the bowling ball, they came back 4 months later and shot that.
That's so interesting.
And that means that right at the end, when she is talking to her dad again and is like, yeah, you saved the day, you gotta keep telling everybody that, they would have had to reshoot that also.
Yeah, no, of course. Is this your favorite shot? You have the flaming skull.
Yeah, it's awesome! And I love that! So did you have what I did with this? Because I was half expecting it to be the ending of Poltergeist, where, like, the building sucks in itself.
No, I didn't think of that. But I've only seen Poltergeist once, so...
Oh, you're a little ahead of me. Yeah, the ball coming at you. It's great. You know what it kind of reminds me of a little bit, though?
What's that?
Oh, another thing that... I shouldn't keep doing this. Another thing that Mystery Men and Spawn have in common is that they both have that aftermath shot that we did in a lot of 80s and 90s superhero movies.
Yes.
Where we go... we go immediately to... the scene of the climax of the crime, and time has passed, and we have this, like, over cop cars shot.
Well,
we did it in both of the movies we watched today.
I can't remember if we've talked about it, but that's one of my biggest, like, fan nitpicks about Ghostbusters Afterlife, is that the first two both end like that, and then it goes to the theme. And they didn't do that in Afterlife, and I was like, "That's how Ghostbusters movies end."
That skull shot reminded me a little bit of a couple of shots in Masters of the Universe.
Oh, interesting. It reminded me of the poster of Halloween 2.
Oh, okay. See, I love her. Explaining to the news what his name and power is, because she told him to be himself, and now that he's done that, she's embracing his superhero side, because that is indeed part of him. And it would have been really easy for that message to be like, it's a typical, you know, be yourself message, but handled better than those sometimes are, especially in this context where it could have gotten away with being about nothing. you know, and it would have been really
a straight farce.
It would have been really easy for that lesson to be, go to anger management therapy. Stop being angry about everything. And it's like, no, it's like the Hulk. It's like sometimes you do want to be angry.
Yeah, no, that's his secret.
Yeah. His secret is he's always unsure of himself. So yeah, retroactively, the end of this movie kind of plays to me like it's making fun of all the superhero movies where the superhero or the team can't pick their name, or is going through a bunch of stupid ideas.
Mm-hmm. And then they nail it. They say the title.
Yeah, but then here they don't say the title because they don't hear it.
Do you wish that it went Shazam 2? We could be the Avengers, or the Legion, or the Authority.
Wait, does that happen in that?
Yeah, in Shazam 2, the after credit scene, he's like, the Justice League and Justice Society, that's dumb. You should be like the Avengers Society, or like the Authority Society.
Oh my god.
And it's like, ugh.
I think I had already committed suicide by that point, and my soul had left my body. Don't ask me how I got myself back together. I don't know.
That was like me, but I haven't even seen it. I just decided before that.
Wow, that's got to be by default the worst of those. And I thought Fan Four Stick still had the record on that.
Oh no, I think that definitely takes the cake at this point.
Boy, that's rough. My goodness. And that's a trope that I never really like, and I wish you could just be allowed to name yourself, or do the Superman thing where somebody deliberately gives you a name.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it is like an annoying thing that we've never gotten past.
I don't know why we have to be cutesy about it, because it's almost like we're making a joke out of it because we think it's too silly to give someone the superhero name or the code name that they have in comics. Like that's somehow a bridge too far in a thing where we've already decided that it's realistic enough to put a person in a costume and have them go fight crime.
Mm-hmm.
But it'd be weird if they picked a name. Like, I don't understand that. It's like, it always feels like we're trying to be realistic about it.
Well, there's just like certain things where it's like, we're always like, oh, we got to be realistic. And it's always less so. You know, like we say it like with the name thing, we say it with, especially like colors, where it's like, being realistic means that you're like gray, but like, you know, the world. And
even the material your costume is made out of.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
I don't know why we're so worried about realism with that. But anyway, I
think their team name should have been the All Stars, though.
Now, to be fair, that should have been one of the gags at the end. To be fair, that was not a trope that was real big yet, so it feels like it's making fun of that. There's a couple things like that in this movie for me, where if you didn't know when it was made, somehow you might think that it's making fun of stuff that hadn't really happened that much yet. So I think that gag works okay in this context.
Mm-hmm. No, I think it works. No, because we were saying this before we got on camera.
Yeah.
That I didn't even think of it as like a joke like that, because the only thing I thought of was the Jeff Johns Justice League first arc steals that joke, like beat for beat.
That's so weird. and that was really cringe-inducing to me when I read that too.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't realize it came from this. You wouldn't have either.
Yeah, no, exactly.
So that must have been weird.
Like, this sucks. But now I know that it sucks because there's no spleen in that book.
So I want to go back to that super chat we got earlier. We didn't talk real hard about this, and I think it's an interesting thing to mull over. What would it have taken for this to be a big movie, or at least made its money back? Like, did the content have to change, or did it simply need to be released at a different time? Because it's not a word of mouth issue. It's not like people went the first week and went, "This sucks, nobody go see it," and people didn't go see it. It's a cult classic now, and I think a lot of the people that went and saw it then liked it, but nobody saw it. Somebody said it also didn't open in very many theaters, and I didn't know that if that's true. Somebody said it only opened in like 2,000 theaters.
Oh, there you go. I would say part of it would be the Batman and Robin didn't kind of kill the genre like right in that moment, because it's like right between when it's about to get really big again and
Well, that's true, and Blade doesn't look like really a superhero movie, so that's
Mhm.
so nobody's thinking about that when that comes out. They're thinking about vampires and action movies,
Yeah,
even though he's
exactly.
kind of got a superhero costume.
Yeah. No, and we're like what, the same year as X-Men?
Just the year before.
Oh, okay, the year before. Yeah, so you know what I mean? Like I feel like that's probably a big part of it.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. Yeah, I mean, like silly comedy starring people wearing costumes.
Hmm.
It kind of feels like it comes. Well, I think it's maybe the Spaceballs problem, where it feels like it comes maybe 4 or 5 years too late. I mean, this is not a direct parody of anything, so I don't mean to say like it needs to come out closer to '89 because it's a parody of Batman, but that's when it would have done better. If this comes out, maybe like I think this needs to come out either 4 or 5 years earlier or 4 or 5 years later.
Hmm.
Because I think
Yeah,
it might have performed better in '93 or '94. I mean, if this comes out like around when The Mask does, and I also think it could have ridden The Mask's coattails a little bit if it came out, say, like 2 years after that.
hmm.
And Batman Forever too, because I should have said '89. It If it feels like at least visually a direct parody of anything, it's Batman Forever.
Well, it's just Schumacher in general. Like it's got both of those movies like in spades,
Yeah,
and
but
it
like,
feels like the main thing it's making fun of. But
but that's
like,
what I'm saying is like you said, people didn't like Batman Forever, and it kind of or Batman and Robin, and it kind of killed the genre. But Batman Forever was huge. So if this could have come out in '96,
yeah,
it might have done pretty well, and it would have looked more or less the same. I don't know that Schumacher had to make two movies for this to look like it looks.
yeah, no, that's probably true. Um, yeah, no, you're probably right about that. It either
These,
needs to be then or it needs to be like 2003.
yeah,
That those are the golden times.
yeah, and then a superhero parody of some kind could do okay immediately after Dark Knight and Iron Man, but probably not this. So like it would have to look different.
Yeah, well, I mean, it
Like
would
Kick
kick
Ass is what
ass.
you need.
Hmm. Yeah, and that's just 2 years after uh, that, 'cause it's 2010.
Yeah. See, I think that was we were in kind of a sweet spot right
Hmm.
there. But yeah, the timing was just kind of off for this.
Yeah, and
And
then
it probably wasn't marketed right, and maybe it needed a star. Which is so ironic to me because it has a bunch of people that I know from things. And so it feels super star studded, but nobody marketable on their own.
one Ben Stiller's probably a star at this point, no?
Yeah, but
99?
he's not like big box office. I don't know, like yeah, he is. I don't know. Maybe they expected that he would get more butts and seats.
Hmm. Needs to come out like right after Dodgeball. Then people will go see it.
Yeah, that's Ben Stiller's one of those guys that like I know who he is and I've seen him and stuff, but and I know he's like popular and well liked and famous and stuff, but I just haven't watched him in enough things.
Hmm. When he's done like out there stuff, like Zoolander's like a very stylized movie in that way and like weird. But then that's also not like a superhero thing.
Well, and he's had such a weird career where he like directed things right around when he was getting huge, and like
Oh,
that's unusual.
oh, Daniver said this is a year after There's Something About Mary. Okay, so I thought that movie was earlier. So yeah, he's like only just becoming a thing.
Oh, okay, weird. It just seems like he was jumping around and wearing a lot of hats before he was even popular.
Hmm.
So that's interesting.
Yeah, no, I thought
Uh,
it was like mid 90s. So that's why I was thinking he was already more of a star.
Long credits for a movie from this period. Even a special effects movie from this period.
Mm-hmm. Maybe Paul Rubens would have gotten people in the seats if he hadn't had the controversy.
Maybe so.
This is like a comeback thing more so.
Well, and he's got enough makeup on him that you'd have to really sell it on him and remind everybody that's who that was, I think.
Imagine trailers where he's the one that you sell it on. You go see the movie, you're like, oh, he's like barely in it.
It's like, oh, the movie is, was it like Fartmen? Like, what is this?
Oh, okay, you say that.
Yeah.
But
I did say that.
In terms of like the parody movie stuff that we got, like, you know, with like the movies and whatnot, that is what the parody of Watchmen would be called, is just the fart men.
Right, it would. Okay, so just a couple of tweet-linked reviews from our patrons. Let me go ahead and read those real quick, and then we will give our ratings and reveal the movies that we're going to do on our next double feature in a couple of weeks. Lord G says, Mystery Men, underrated gem of superhero comedy that feels before its time. A terrific cast that is used well and helped make this movie the delight it is. My family and I quote it on a regular basis, and I have seen the movie dozens of times. Captain Amazing is my favorite character, feeling like essentially a precursor to characters like Homelander from The Boys.
I was having that thought too.
Yeah.
Obviously, like, it's not as dark and whatnot, but there's like a little bit of that, like The Boys cynical edge at his character.
And then Tom says, one of the few comedic deconstructions of superhero films, particularly the ones from the early 90s, late 80s, along the lines, I mean, this is later than that, along the lines of Megamind, I think he's trying to say, many years later, while still retaining its composer. I don't know what that means.
Composure, maybe?
Oh, maybe that's what he means, yeah. And he says he would call it a legend. Okay, Austin, how are you going to rate this movie?
Right now I'm at a superhero. I like this movie a lot. I feel like I will continue to like it more going forward. That's where I am right now.
That's where I thought you'd probably go with it. I don't think I can go quite that high. I think it's just a high hero for me.
Boo this man, Chad.
Yeah, well, fair enough. It's, I don't know, like it's just not tightly woven enough for my taste.
Mm-hmm.
But like
fair enough.
It's fun. I like it. My standards, I guess, are weirdly high with this because like it's so tick-like, but it's not there. You know what I mean? And so like it's, you'd think I'd go higher because in a lot of ways it is my kind of thing. Like it's got a brand of humor that I typically really like, but my standards are in a place where I don't feel like it's quite meeting them. Like, so like some of it is a comedic taste thing where that is subjective and like it's funny, but it's not as funny as I want it to be, and I don't like the percentage of the jokes that are landing for me. And then because of that, I want it. I don't know. I need it to either be tighter with its narrative where it doesn't even matter if I'm laughing or not, because I'm continuously into the story, or I need to be laughing more than I am. And that's why I don't feel like I can go quite that high.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, fair enough.
But I get it. Nobody's going to agree with me. That's fine. Spider-Fan says boo. Will McCausland says boo.
They're not saying boo, Cap. They're saying boo earns. Boo earns.
What? I don't know what you're saying. What?
It's a Simpsons joke. We'll get there.
Okay. Chewbacca's Lover, I really thought Cap would be won over on this viewing. I mean, I like it. It's a hero. It's not a villain.
No, you're giving it a nemesis. It's superhero or nemesis.
I acting like I'm giving it a nemesis. Yeah, I just don't know if I can go quite up to superhero.
That's the other thing that we're hitting tonight. You didn't go low enough for Spawn, and then you didn't go high enough for Mystery Men.
Well, there ain't no valley low enough or a mountain high enough. Tom, $2 super chat. He said, I meant deconstruction of 80s and 90s superhero movies. Okay.
Very good.
I think it's making fun of some tropes of those things. I don't think it's a full-on deconstruction.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's a full-on deconstruction. I think this movie ran so that movies like Megamind could walk in its shadow, but nobody saw this, so they didn't realize.
Yeah, sure. Isn't it weird when that happens, where people will, herald something like a big trendsetter when something else did it, maybe not as well, but you probably wouldn't even have it if it weren't for that other thing, but people don't even remember it or ever knew about it. Whereas, like, they probably wouldn't be as impressed if they had bothered with that other thing.
Well, now it's my worry going to something like Dr. Horrible or something I've never seen, which, like, am I going to look at it and go, it's not Mystery Men, I like that better.
Yeah. Yeah, no, possibly. Some things you kind of had to be there. It's sad to say. And I wonder if this isn't one of those a little bit for me. Like, I probably would have been really into this movie if I watched it when it came out.
Yeah, possibly.
But I think I am maybe having that thing where I've seen some of the things that either it influenced, later, or just, a lot of things like it that I like a little better.
Yeah, no, definitely. So I'm giving it a superhero. Cap's giving it a nemesis. Good night,
That's
everybody.
not what I said. I don't know. I'm still conflicted. I'm saying hero. It is probably deserving of a superhero, but I'm gonna stick with it. That's just how
okay.
it's how I feel about it. There ain't no mountain. Anyway, everybody, thanks a bunch for being here and watching. Austin now is going to reveal.
Well, I'm just fired because of all this ribbing. So I'm
this is the last thing I'm going to make you do, and then you won't be back next time. But Austin's going to reveal what I'll be doing. No, I'm kidding. What we'll be doing for our next double feature in a couple of weeks. And Austin, do you know the films?
Yes. So we're doing Blade, and I haven't checked in a while, but I'm assuming it's the same thing from the poll. So we're doing Blade and Batman versus Dracula next time.
Yeah, so it's going to be all vampires next time for a Halloween double feature event on the Superhero Rewind Commentary Podcast. We keep mentioning Blade both in the last couple of Rewind nights, commentary nights, and also we've been talking about it a lot with the impromptu superhero history videos. So it seemed high time to watch it, and it was Austin's idea to go ahead and knock that out, and I was like, yeah, that's a good idea, let's do that.
Yeah, it's interesting because I gave like a double feature suggestion that we ended up voting, and both of them have like very good connections, so it worked out either way.
Yeah. Yeah, you had another idea for the other movie, but I wanted to make sure that the selection board got to select something.
No, it was definitely a better choice.
Yeah, and I didn't think that would win, so it's kind of cool that we had two vampire movies.
Yeah, one from each company, so.
That's true, too, because it's been a little bit lopsided lately, where we'll either do a bunch of DC in a row or a bunch of Marvel in a row.
Yeah, I feel like it was like really DC heavy, and then we became more Marvel heavy as we went.
Well, it was their turn. Well, once again, we want to say thanks to all of our patrons, especially our Patreon producers. The $10 tier makes you a Rewind producer, and one of the things that we do is we read your name at the end of every show. And we read these already at the beginning, but we're going to do it again because I missed it on the previous stream. So we're bookending with it, and Austin's going to help me out with it this time. If you're a Patreon producer, you also get to sometimes help us select movies for the show. Our producers did that for what will be our next show. And you get to hang out with us once a month watching superhero movies or talking about superhero movies, and you get to hang out with us in the Discord, in text, and all kinds of fun things like that. So right now, we're going to read down very dramatically the list of current Patreon producers, and we're gonna start with one reply.
Bill Mills.
Chewbacca's lover.
Doctor. Hello.
Elliot Slater.
Gifster 123.
It's always funny when you forget to do the Mantis thing, and then you're like, "Oh no, I was already committed, but I'm gonna do it anyway."
Yeah, I was like Dr. Hello. Is that how I ended up saying
Dr.
it?
Hellhole. That's not very nice. Hayden Spring.
Joe Turner.
Jojira.
Matt 16.
Michael Martin.
SJ.
Thomas Edge Hill.
Adam March.
Damon Begay.
Hot Soup.
Jacob Schneider.
Scroll.
Oh, okay.
Jonathan Campbell.
I would love to see what your screen looks like right now.
It was too far zoomed in.
Justin Hayes.
Kareem Roberts.
Matthew Brody.
Michael Austin Gulick.
Miguel Rodriguez.
Me. I was cropped out too much.
Unknown passenger.
And Wendell Jones.
All right. Well, that was a mess, but we got through it. Thanks, everybody. Really appreciate it. And
I'm sweating here.
We will see you again for the next double feature for the Superhero Rewind Commentary Project. We've been really enjoying doing it this way, and we're going to try it like that for the foreseeable future, if we can keep our stamina up. It's pretty late in the morning, but or into the night, but it was a lot of fun. I hope you enjoyed it, Austin.
I did. I get to listen outside and hear my children of the night.
What? Oh, okay. Sorry, it took me a minute. I didn't understand what you were saying, and now I'm there. I got like I don't know. We're in the '90s. I got like '90s dance music stuck in my head as soon as you said that. It's like, the rhythm of the night. Whoa, yeah.
Yep.
Thanks for listening, folks. We'll see you again real soon. I was Captain Logan. Once again, Austin the Day Ghost.
Go for the moon.
Bye, everybody.
See ya.